Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be reading another letter from a subscriber. We're going to call him Jackson. His name is obviously not Jackson, but to protect his privacy and the privacy of the individuals he mentions in his letter, we're going to call him Jackson, and we're going to change the names of the other individuals as well. Please, please, please feel free at the end of the video to leave your thoughts, your opinions, your gems of knowledge and wisdom for Jackson and his situation. And I just ask that if you do so, you do so with compassion. This is going to be a very young man. I think he is 22 years old, and if you remember your 20s like I remember my 20s, then you know that's a time where things just happen, and sometimes we don't know better to do better. So please just be kind. And without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right into the video. I will warn you, this is probably going to be a long video because his letter is quite long. So just want to go ahead and warn you. So Jackson writes, "My name is Jackson and I'm 22 years old and from Chicago, Illinois. When I was in the 5th to 9th grade, I tried dating white girls and had 2 girlfriends in that time period, and both ended by me getting cheated on by another guy. So sophomore year, I met a black girl, and her name was Shannon, and she was the nicest girl I'd ever met until that point. The difference between her and all the white girls I tried to talk to was she wasn't sensitive and didn't put her guard up on everything I said to her. But the only reason we didn't become more than friends is because she's lesbian, but that was what created my interest in black girls. So about 6 months later, I met this girl named Carrie, and she was in Georgia. So we did long distance for about 2 years. I'm sorry, it says 4 years, until we had to end due to long distance. We both wanted an in-person relationship and couldn't get money to see each other. So then I was single for about 2 to 3 years. This January in college, I met this black girl named Paige, and she was in a relationship with a white man, and I knew him from high school and could tell from the beginning this isn't going to work because he's your typical redneck, Trump supporter, hillbilly, racist white boy. She kept telling me he's selfish and spoiled from his parents and expects everything to go his way, and called her the N-word several times. And while this was going on, I had/have a really big crush on her, and so she told me I need to break up with him. And so she told me I need to break up with him. I'm assuming this means he told her she needs to break up with him. And I helped her through it, and that was only like 2 weeks ago. And while this was happening, her dad has been in the hospital for almost a month now. But about a week after they broke up, she wanted me to come see her at the hospital when she wasn't taking care of her dad. So I went to go see her, and on the second day of me seeing her, I probably went too far, but I asked her out, and she said, of course, we can go tonight. So when she was done caring for her dad, we went out to IHOP and had a date. Then we went into her car afterwards and we watched a movie. She was really emotional at times, so I put my arm around her and put my hand out, and she held my hand and leaned on me, and I literally had the best night of my life. The day after, we're back at the hospital, and she was sitting in a wide hospital chair that could fit 2 skinny people, and was quizzing her friend for a history test. But what I did, that I highly regret now, is I sat in the same chair with her, and because of the night before, I didn't think I was doing anything wrong. She showed no uncomfortable signs to me, so I never noticed until her friend took me for a walk and explained it to me, and that she wasn't healed from her ex yet. And I felt like shit, and was very upset with myself. And her friends were like, it's okay, and I didn't think it was so. She didn't talk or see me for 2 days, but then this past Monday, she wanted to see me again. And I felt better since she didn't care anymore and we did homework together. Side note, she has given me green flags during that night, and anytime we hang out, like, we'll have 4 kids since you want 12 and I want 2. Or makes me Jamaican food to try, or compares me to her ex and says he would do XYZ and you're better because you don't. And she said we do homework every day of the week, and so Tuesday I texted her once, and she hasn't responded to me. And FYI, I know it's not a good thing, but I'm extremely emotional and extremely desperate. I really want kids in a family badly. And another thing, up until I met her, I used to be a bum. I'd play video games 16 hours a day, never washed my body, never shaved, and had extremely bad unhealthy habits. But when I met her and found out she wants to be a CRNA nurse, I thought to myself, if I'm over here playing video games and making $50 a month, and she's making $250K a year, her father's not going to let me marry her, and definitely not have kids with her. So I need to change now. So for the last 2 weeks straight, I deleted all my unhealthy habits and have gone to the gym once or twice a day. So with that being said, I'm in a situation where I want to grow a relationship with her very badly, but I don't want to push her buttons, especially with everything she's dealing with. And thanks to white girls giving me a bad habit, I get scared about if she meets another guy and gets with him when our dad gets better. And I just need help on what to do to be patient about it and not worry and to control my urges of being with her. I just got a job today and might get another one in a week, but I just still need to figure out how to calm down my end of the magnet. Because even if she told me I'm the one when she's ready to date, that would eliminate 95% of my anxiety about it. But I know she won't do that, so I need help. And I can ask my mom, but she's going to give me the 1970s white woman response, and that's not applicable to what I need. So that's why I need a response from a young black woman's perspective. I have a ton of thoughts, and literally, like, I had to take notes because I have so much I want to say to this. And I'm not going to say everything I'm thinking, because even with the letter itself, I still don't know Jackson. I don't know him personally. I don't know these other individuals involved. I can only really share from this like tip of the iceberg that he has shared with me. But the first thing that just comes to mind in reading this letter is just the level of immaturity. And God, please, like, I do not mean this in any negative way. You are 22 years old. That is par for the course. But the immaturity in particular, it's not even across all arenas, it's in particular to how you seem to view women. So, Jackson, the first thing that I want to say is that you have to move beyond this white girls do this, black girls do that. That does a disservice to all women, and it does a disservice to the black women that you seem to have so much admiration for. And the reason that I say that is because so much of being a black woman is being in this weird space of we're put on this weird pedestal of we're so strong, we're so resilient, we're so this, we're so that. And at the same time, though, we're not as feminine, we're not as soft, we're not as this or that as women of other races, and in particular, white women. And so what I think you really need to do is try to kind of mend, heal your own relationship and perspective on women. Because, Jackson, I know that the feelings that you have when you're young, especially for the very first time, are so strong, but your experiences between 5th to 9th grade with these young women, like 5th grade is like, I don't even know, how old is that? Like 10, 11 or something along those lines? And 9th grade, what is that, like 14 to 15? I mean, that's the age of a child. So of course they're going to have these childish behaviors. I mean, you all were children. You cannot base your relationship, your potential for an adult relationship, on experiences that you had as a child. I am sure, without even knowing you, I am sure that the things that you did when you were 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 are not the same as what you're doing now at 22 years old, right? And so I think you need to stop thinking in terms of this binary of white women, black women, and think in terms of women. Because I know for many black women, we want to be seen first as a woman. We want our womanhood to be validated. And I also say that because, I don't want you to have this binary of this is good or this is bad, because if you have these relationships, which you just haven't had yet, if you end up having these relationships with these black women, you will see that, overall, we are all the same. People overall are all the same. And if you're hurt or if you're disappointed, then what are you going to do then? Then you're going to be like, well, white women suck, black women suck. Now it's time to move on to this next race. And that's just not how it works. How it works is, okay, these individuals I had a bad experience with. And of course it's okay to have preferences, There's nothing wrong with having preferences, but I don't think the preferences should be based in experiences that you had when you were a very young child in relationships that, are like quasi-relationships, but also they should not be rooted just solely on race, not solely on race, right? Because you also haven't met all the people that are out there. You haven't met all the possibilities. And also, even in the way in which, you described your mom, like, yes, maybe, it is 1970s woman advice, female advice, but she is a woman, right? She is a woman and you are pursuing a woman. And at the end of the day, it's just about respect. And so I really want you to start thinking about how you view women as a whole, and making sure that you really try to like build a sense of love and compassion, admiration for women, because that will make any relationship that you have a higher quality relationship. And so that's just kind of my first thought. And it seems like, you have some healing that you need to do there. I'm sorry if you were really hurt. Again, when you're young and your feelings get hurt, it really does feel like the end of the world. But as you get older, it still hurts, but you really start to come into your own, and you can start to realize, like, maybe this was my part. This was my role in that situation. Maybe I wasn't doing this enough, or maybe just we weren't compatible. And it sounds like you just weren't compatible, and it's not just because these young white women were white. I think a lot of it was just that they were young. They were just young girls. And so the next thing that I kind of want to touch on in terms of this immaturity is, I also feel that you need to be kind of careful of what I see as a lack of self-confidence and a lack of self-esteem when it comes to this young woman that you're speaking of, who is going through these issues right now with her father. And the reason that I say that is that if she was in a relationship with a man who did the things that you say that she did, she is not in a place to, at least in my opinion, this is all my opinion. Please let that be known. This is all my opinion. This is all my perspective. You asked for my perspective though, so this is it. But I don't think she's even in a place where she needs to be in a relationship with anyone right now, because if she was willing to accept what she accepted from her ex, I don't see her as having enough self-awareness, self-confidence, self-esteem to be in a healthy relationship. And also, just like some of the things you mentioned that were green flags, I don't even necessarily think that those are green flags. Comparing you to her ex, to me, that just shows that she hasn't really moved on, which her friends confirmed that that's the case. And so I think you need to be careful for a few reasons. The first thing that I think you need to be cautious of is the fact that she is turning to you in a time of need and a time of potentially like the opening stages of grief. And while that on the surface can seem like such a special thing, and it is a special thing, don't get me wrong, that is a special thing. But like while on the surface it seems so amazing, like, oh my God, she's turning to me. At the same time, grief, sadness, like all of those things can really cloud our judgment. Like all of those things can make us do things that if we were in a better place, we wouldn't do, we wouldn't accept, we wouldn't even want, right? I remember years ago when I was around your age, my grandfather, who I loved so, so much, was passing away. He was dying. He had been diagnosed with cancer that year, and he was dying. And I was in a relationship at that time that was also dying. And I know for a fact that had I not been in a mindset of, oh my God, I'm losing this one man that I love so, so much, I can't lose this other. If I wouldn't have had that mindset of just being afraid, being fearful because of the loss of my grandfather, I would have left that relationship. I wouldn't have even tolerated it. I wouldn't have stayed in it. But there was so much fear and sadness, and I just needed someone at that point in time to kind of help me get through that. And so it could be the same situation. And it almost seems like you kind of know that this may be that same situation, because you mentioned, what happens if, later on when her father gets better, if he gets better, if she finds another guy. And I do think, of course, some of that also seems to come from your own insecurities, but that's a part of being with someone, dealing with someone in a time of need. It can just really cloud your judgment because there's so much fear and emotions are so high. And so, there's so much I want to tell you, but I think the three main things that I want to say is, the first is that you have to start building your life for you. You mentioned that prior to meeting this young woman, you weren't taking the best care of yourself. And I don't think there's anything wrong at all with being inspired by people, having people motivate us. But at some point, it has to come from within, because, motivation is so transient. And your 20s in general is so ephemeral. It's such a transient experience. People are going to come and go all throughout your 20s, and if you are like hinging all of your own personal growth on another person motivating you, especially in this window of time where people are trying to figure themselves out, they're trying to start their own lives and careers and etc., you're going to constantly be disappointed, and you're going to be constantly in a cycle of having to rebuild because you lost that source of motivation. And so I cannot emphasize enough that it's time for you to focus on you. Be a great friend. Continue to be a good friend to this individual if you care about them and you know that they care about you. But don't get too intertwined right now, because again, this young woman is going through something that's really difficult, that I'm sure is really painful, and she just may not be in a space to really be the woman that you want, that you may need in your life at this point. Another thing that I kind of want to talk to you about is this idea of you saying that you have this emotional, this desperation, that you know that you want a family, you know you want to have children, you want this partner. You are 22 years old. There is absolutely nothing wrong with knowing that you want those things later on down the line, but you need to do the things now for yourself to prepare for that, because excuse me, those things are only as good as your preparation. And to be fair, those are things that you can never be fully prepared for, right? Because like you can't prepare for something that you've never done before, you've never experienced. You can't be fully prepared, but you do want to be able to provide for those individuals that you want to have in your life. But I do want you to question yourself in terms of this desperation. The desperation, that extreme desperation and fragility is really unhealthy. And I really want you to think about, where is that coming from? And I would be curious to know, like, what are your support systems like? What types of relationships do you have in your life right now? Because I see, especially with so many young men, you start to live these insular, isolated lives, and you don't have intimacy. And so you look for intimacy in just romantic relationships, and you base all your emotional needs on that relationship. And that is a lot to put on your partner. And your partner will disappoint you because they can't be everything for you. And so I really hope that if you don't already, you also take this time to start building really strong friendships and really strong connections with your family, because that will provide you intimacy. And intimacy, it's not just sex. It's not just a romantic relationship. Intimacy is connection. Intimacy is being seen and being valued, being heard. And it is so important, especially at the age you're at now. It's so much easier to start to make these connections when you're younger than when you get older. And so it is so important that you start to do that, because you will, you'll receive that love and connection that you're looking for through just this one outlet, which is a romantic relationship. And you'll see that, like, okay, like, I am lovable. I'm worthy of love. Like, people will love me. And that will hopefully help alleviate some of that desperation that you have. I really wonder, does that desperation just come from loneliness? And again, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with wanting a partner. I'm not saying at all that there's something wrong with wanting a partner. We are social beings, like that's how we're set up. But I do think that loneliness can lead to desperation, and desperation it's honestly kind of like a positive feedback. Loneliness can lead to desperation, which could lead to us settling for relationships with people that don't really actually fulfill us, love us, care about us. And anyone can tell you, there is no greater feeling of loneliness than being with a person who's not right for you, who doesn't really care about you, or who doesn't care about you in the way that you want to be cared about. There is no lonelier feeling than that. That is the peak of loneliness. And so, Jackson, you're asking, how can I calm my magnet? How can I kind of like detach myself from all of these extreme emotions? And my advice to you would really be, as much as you can, to focus on yourself, investing in your life, keeping yourself busy, continuing to work out, continuing to eat well, building strong friendships and connections, and really investing in your own interests, finding maybe a sport that you like, or I don't know, types of games that you want to play, books that you enjoy reading, like really starting to come into your own. That will help because you will start to feel fulfillment in different ways, and even perhaps, you know, seeking some sort of like mental health services or counseling. I know that a lot of universities actually provide that to their students for for free or for like a discounted rate, because I do wonder if there are things from in your past that are deeply ingrained within you that are making you have those feelings. And again, I think it's amazing that you're being a good friend to this individual and you're being supportive, but I really do want to make sure that you are cautious with yourself, with your heart, with your time, because again, you know, this individual is going through a really difficult time, and this probably isn't the right time to really actively pursue her. And so, you know, those are my thoughts. Those are just Amanda's thoughts. I do want to say that I wish you well and that I hope things work out for you. You are so, so young. You have so much life ahead of you, and I just wish you the absolute best. All right, everyone. So thank you so much for watching today's video. I really, really hope that those of you who have maybe been in a similar experience to Jackson or who are in a similar experience to Jackson can chime in the comments below. Again, I just ask for compassion. I ask for compassion. And thank you so much for watching today's video. Until next time, stay safe, be well, and I'll see you all soon. Bye, everyone.